Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, April 2nd, 2020, 7 o'clock meeting of the Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners. We're doing it remotely, so I need to read the statement put out by the Governor's Office. Pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, this meeting of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be conducted in total or in part via remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website or at dudleyma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner: via Facebook Live and/or posted link at dudleyma.gov following the meeting. No in-person attendance of the meeting of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. A roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could rise or face a flag that they have for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. First up on the agenda, second on the agenda is COVID-19 Public Health and Safety Briefing. At this point, I will turn the floor over to Board of Health Agent Tom Purcell. Tom.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Just as a brief update, as a result of the communication that we had with the school superintendent and the committee regarding the cleaning of the schools, I did make a contact with Mr. Matthew and gave him a referral for a professional outfit to that he could contact to see about securing services in a timely fashion. And that would be to do all 4 of the schools. Second thing I have on my agenda was I get a request today from one of the local churches about having a Easter Sunday drive-in style church service in the parking lot. It's the second request that I've had like this, and it's generally not recommended, because what it's doing is it's encouraging people to come out of the house, and especially where we have pretty much a stay-at-home order, and going to mass is not necessarily an essential where you have to be present. There's a lot of virtual, and they do have the capability, I guess, of virtual services, so we strongly encourage that and eliminate the possibility of a mass a mass gathering in an open air area. And the third thing is I just 15 minutes ago I just got an update that we do have another positive coronavirus in town, so we're now up to 6. And that's all I have. Any questions?
No, I appreciate it, Tom.
Okay.
I'll send Mr. Chairman.
So Tom, we're not counting that school as one of our contacts, right?
No,
Because
no,
she-
that's not one of the contacts.
Okay.
This is another new one that we just got notification directly from UMass Memorial Hospital tonight.
Okay. And that'll be handled for notification purposes like the other one, so it's entered into the public safety dispatch record, right?
That's exactly correct, and yes.
Okay. Any questions for the Board of Health agent? Any questions concerning what may have happened at the school? And I know Tom touched on our actions. Excuse me. Any questions for Tom Purcell or the town administrator?
No.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on to subsection 2, Fire Chief, Emergency Management Director, Chief Kochanowski. All you, Chief.
How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yep.
sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. So we just continue to take precautions. I've been updating Web EOC through MEMA, putting daily log entries in, putting in requests for materials, masks, and goggles, and more gloves, all that kind of stuff. We've had more private donations. I'd like to thank everybody who gave private donations, Webco, Mace Polymers, and Shields Packaging. And if I forgot anybody, I apologize, but I want to thank everybody who's given donations to date. It's very important, and it's really helped us out. So that being said, again, we're keeping our guys protected. We're running calls. Our call volume's a little lower, but that's to be expected. That means people are listening to what the governor's putting out there. Again, I want to reiterate the importance. If you just have flu-like symptoms and no underlying conditions, and you're not in an emergent situation or a life-threatening situation, call your primary care physician first. Do not call the ambulance, because the primary care physician is the person who can initiate the testing. If you just have flu-like symptoms and we take you up to the ER, they're not going to give you a test. And it also you run the risk of putting the ambulance out of service, for deep cleaning and quarantining my individuals. So then the ambulance won't be available to anybody. But again, please, if you're having a serious illness, do not hesitate to call the ambulance. That's what we're here for. We're just following the guidelines that's coming out from DPH and Governor Baker's office. We also, here at Emergency Management, had the cruises sanitized for the police department. We had the highway department vehicles sanitized, and we had the water sewer vehicles all sanitized through a company that I'm familiar with, and did the station and the ambulances last week, or a week and a half ago. I also, again, had my station deep cleaned by a cleaning company today. They wiped down all hard surfaces and did all the equipment in here and everything in the living space again. And the other company that did the cruises and the ambulances will be coming back at some point over the next 2 weeks to do town hall in the police department. I think that's all I have at this point, because nothing else has changed. And Tom already said we have the 6th person. So, and that has been conveyed to us here for response purposes. That just came in like literally right before this meeting started, like maybe a half hour, 40 minutes. And I think that's all I have. If I have something else, I'll catch it at the end during departmental communications, unless anybody has any questions.
Thanks for the report, Chief. Anybody, any questions with the Fire Chief EMS Director?
Nope.
Nope.
Excellent. Next up, under 2, Section 3, Chief of Police Steve Weiner update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Well, welcome. Yeah, I think a lot of the things were covered by both Tom and the fire chief. We continue to still, again, do the best we can with everything as much as we can. The officers are doing a great job as far as protecting themselves and responding to calls in efficient fashion. We again too we're still waiting for some personal protective equipment, but I know the fire chief's been working on that for quite some time, but it's a little bit frustrating. We're still dealing with the fact that the court is closed, so we've been handling a lot of the business there, both with arrests and criminal prosecutions and everything else that we have, mostly remotely. We've been dealing with East Brookfield Court for a period of time, and I believe we're also going to be dealing with Worcester Court as that comes up. But we're handling things like harassment orders, restraining orders, and all the other business through the phone system, working with various courts. So again, credit to all the officers for all the work that they're doing with that stuff, and in particular Dave Carpenter, my court liaison officer, is staying on top of all those things to keep that going. We also had some cleaning done at the station. So again, thank the fire chief and the administrator for arranging all those things going on. We've also been getting some assistance from the high school. One of the janitors, Greg Duval, up there is coming down and assisting with some sterilization and things in our building. That's really been a great help and process. We are seeing, I mean, our calls for service is staying relatively similar to what we have in the past, but again, we're just responding differently in some occasions. We encourage everybody to call first if they have any questions. Maybe we can help them over the phone. The officers may wait outside on some occasions too, and deal with you either through the door or another fashion like that. But again, we're there for anybody that needs us, and we've also been following up with the ambulances. So we're not going into the homes and assisting them, but we're providing some security to them on the scene as things go. But roughly that's about it for now, and we'll just kind of keep the status quo and move on from there. If there's any questions, I'll gladly cover.
Anybody have any questions for the police chief? Chief, thanks for your report.
No problem.
Sir,
Mr. Joseph,
I have none.
anybody else have any questions?
No, thank you.
Excellent. Jonathan Reuter, Peter Durant had to leave us, so we're going to skip legislator update.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I am here.
Oh, okay. I
just muted my my video for various reasons, not the least of which is I've decided to go with the Red Sox method of just letting my beard grow until we actually get back into the swing of things. So.
Well, most people would thank you for muting your video.
Really, to be honest with you, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions. I can just tell you that from our standpoint in the legislature, we're working on a number of different things. Mainly right now is the is House Bill 4593, which is the bill that does, among other things, extends the tax filing deadline. It's got a number of provisions in it. You may have heard about some of the ones that will allow restaurants to sell alcohol, things of that nature. Some of the other issues that are related directly to the town, which would postpone town meeting until June after. So there's a number of things going on. Unfortunately, we're really actually stuck going back and forth with some of the proposals with the Senate right now. So I don't have any real updates until that bill finally makes it through both chambers. But like I say, I'm happy to answer any specific questions you guys have. My days are mainly filled up with that legislation, as well as getting briefings from the various departments. And so conference calls seem to be the order of the day.
Mr. Chairman, I had a couple of questions for Representative Durant. The first question I had was relative to the MMA is advertising that there's an April 7th meeting for town officials to kind of get brought up to speed in terms of what the budget forecast looks like for next year. Are you part of that, or? Is that,
I'm aware of that. I haven't been. We had a meeting. I'm losing track of my days. I'm sorry. I think it was Tuesday to start discussing that. We haven't got any updates yet. Tomorrow's Friday, so we expect to see a little bit more information coming out. I wasn't asked to be part of that MMA meeting, but I'm certainly happy to attend either directly or remotely. So I haven't got any more information on that, but we are trying to put together some of the projections for the budget going forward. And as you can suspect, they're kind of ugly at this point.
yeah, I can definitely suspect that. Mr. Chairman, if I can, I had a question about, well, a few things. It's my understanding that there's a provision to move the local vote if necessary and the town meeting. We don't have a need to do that right now. I sent out some information to the Board of Selectmen relative to moving it. We don't have a town meeting in May, so we're okay for the time being. So I think that what we're thinking now is that we leave it on time until we absolutely need to change it. Has there been any talk about, Peter, has there been any discussion about local taxes and what we're doing in terms of fees and due dates and so forth?
Yes, and that's part of this municipal bill that's being hashed out in the two chambers right now as well. So we are looking at that. Let's see, I'm looking at, I apologize because I'm looking at some of the bullet points. Town meetings, we're looking to allow deficit spending and to amortize that debt into the next fiscal years. Income tax filings. Right of first refusal, cities and towns. We're looking to permit cities and towns to extend the deadlines for property tax payments to be no later than June 1st. So the current property tax payment could be deferred to June 1st on that end, if that's what you're talking about from a taxpayer standpoint, John.
Yeah, thank you. From a taxpayer standpoint, Mr. Chairman, we were looking for, I think we're all kind of looking for a little bit of guidance from Boston. I knew that there was a bill pending, and I just wanted to kind of get a flavor from the representative as to which way he thought that might be going. So is that?
Yeah, that is currently the bill that we're hashing out, and it's been going back and forth between the House and the Senate now for almost a week, and so we're trying to get this thing passed through. We are cognizant of obviously the April 15th deadline. So just so that people know, as of tonight, that bill has not passed in the state's filing deadline for taxes, and some of the other things have not gone through yet. So we hope to have an update for you as soon as possible. I just got an update right before I got on this call, and there has been no progress as of about 6 o'clock this evening. So they're still working tonight. And we're still waiting to hear a resolution, but at this point there is none. As soon as that comes through, I'll be happy to pass it on to you guys.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, I think Rich had something.
Yep. Town Treasurer, Rich Carmignani.
Good evening. Thank you. Just a quick comment on Representative Durant and what's in the pipeline. A lot of things that we have set up would be for payments after May 1st, meaning there's going to be a school assessment on May 10th. There's some debt due on May 15th. There's some debt due first week in June. So as much as the legislature is trying to be accommodating, just a reminder for everyone that we have some big payments set up in anticipation of a May 1st date. So however they facilitate that, it would be appreciated.
From our standpoint, Rich, this is Peter again, just from our standpoint, I will be sure to make sure we convey that to the legislature's standpoint. And again, moving forward, we'll push that information forward and out to you guys as soon as we get it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further questions or any questions to the town's treasurer? Excuse me.
Nope.
Hearing none. Back to the agenda. We will be going to new business, letter to Governor Baker requesting his support for the Stevens Mill project, and I will turn that to Town Administrator John Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, if I could go back to number 3,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
just for the
sorry.
report.
Yeah, I skipped the report. I apologize. Back to
I
Town
had a
Administrator.
perfect segue. I teed it right up for emergency spending update.
Right.
So, so I appreciate, this has been, we've had to do some one-on-one contact, and then kind of talk about what we spoke about individually at our regularly scheduled meetings, just because of the circumstances. But as everyone's aware, there's been a freeze imposed on non-essential service spending, line item spending, and as Representative Durant just mentioned and the treasurer just mentioned, that's the exact reason for it. Because going into next year, I haven't asked the treasurer to discuss our collections year to date in comparison to last year. If you'd like to, fine, but I'm sure that, as of March 1st, it looked like we were about $5 million behind from where we were last year. But we're trying to hold on to what we have right now and make sure that we can respond where we need to public safety and public health being the priority. So to that end, the treasurer and I are working with DOR. I'm working with Chief Kochanowski, who's looking for FEMA reimbursement for everything that we spend, and we've been keeping pretty close tabs on it. To date, our payroll has not been too bad. It's been about $8,293 over. Our expenses are about $21,000, about $22,000 into unanticipated expenses. And there's a mechanism through DOR that we'll have out by tomorrow that allows us to submit those expenses as well as projected expenses going forward to the director of DOR, and he signs off on it and approves it, and then we can deficit spend. We created an account of deficit spend, and there's, I believe, 3 different mechanisms for us to be able to pay that off when the time comes, which are too boring to discuss right now. But we will, once we get that in place, we'll certainly bring it out publicly and figure out which way is best to go for the town. Essential staffing, as everyone knows, we've really pared down who we have in contact from day to day at the town hall. Of course, public safety is fully staffed. We've worked on our social distancing measures with highway, and today I saw them out there trying to adapt to having no money for materials or no spendable money for materials. And it looked like they adapted pretty well. There was a lot of cleanup in progress, and to me, it looked like we were rising to the occasion to keep everybody working and follow along with the guidance. So I was happy to see that. Back to what we have at the town hall. We probably have 4 or 5 employees maximum in the town hall at one time. They're all separated by floors for the most part. So we're pulling our share of the weight in terms of following the guidance. In your packet tonight, I included a copy of our schedule. It shows who's working remotely and when, and who's at town hall and when, and how they can be contacted. And I just wanted to make the Board of Selectmen aware of that, just to show that we're on top of it. You will now have a copy of the schedules. If you want any one of these employees at any time, take a look at the schedule, and they should be answering and available to help you as usual. And if they're not, let me know. What else do I have? Public outreach. I know Michelle's been trying to get on. I don't think you're on, Michelle, are you? I can see a tab there, but I don't know if she's had much success tonight. So in terms of public outreach, I brought it up at the last meeting. And this week, as I mentioned, we have our library director and our children's librarian are acting as our two public outreach officers, and they are contacting on a regular basis all the religious establishments in town, Tri-Valley, Meals on Wheels, Boys and Girls Club, the Webster Dudley Food Share, anybody who may be aware of any sort of a need in the community. We're not just sitting back waiting for it to come to us. We're proactively reaching out. We're proactively reaching out so that it comes to us. And this week, we actually were successful and identified a need. And we've turned that need over to our resource officer, who is Michelle Jervis, and she's going to she's working on connecting the Women's Club with Tri-Valley and addressing some issues they're having in terms of volunteers available to distribute meals to those who can't get out and do that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that was a success this year. We're working, if the needs go beyond what we can handle on a volunteer basis, or if they turn into a public safety need, as always, we are reaching out to our public safety partners in town, and they're handling it accordingly, along with, emergency management needs that we can address. In terms of keeping up with regular non-COVID related operations and administration, of course, we're doing the best we can with that. And before I forget, in terms of outreach, we're also providing outreach to our business community in the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to, as of tomorrow, we're going to list on the website businesses that are allowed to remain open and are available to serve or deliver to the public. And I think that'll be a good service for those who are shut in and don't want to leave. And the business community who's hurting for customers, I think we're going to try to connect them that way. So back to the operations and administrative update. We did manage to get, this is more therapeutic for me than anything else, but I was able to submit to Mass DOT for a grant, for a small bridge grant application to address our Mill Street Bridge over the Merino Pond outlet, which is a historical bridge, and we're working with Ty and Bond to have them come in and address that issue with us in a historically accurate manner that will allow it to remain standing for another 100 years. We also had a chance to circle back with Peter Peliquin, who's working on our MVP grant. That's the grant that addresses our municipal vulnerabilities. Of course, a lot of that's been on hold, but now is the perfect time for us to publicize his final report, and I'm going to publicize that up on the website while people are home. It would be great if they would, members of the community would take a look at it, tell us what they think, get an idea as to what we're trying to achieve with this grant, and we should be in a good position to apply for funding. Let's see. Also, I've signed a short-term contract. When I say short-term, I mean April 1st to June 30th with True North, who did our vulnerability review, because there are things that were identified in our cybersecurity vulnerability assessment that needed to be immediately addressed, and I don't think we're in any sort of position to wait. There's 14 points that need to be addressed immediately. We have a balance in the account from the grant that we received. It won't cost us anything out of the general fund, and it's a short-term contract. So I think that's, that's something that we need to address even during all this, because now, more than any other time where we have people working remotely and using VPNs to get into the network, I think we really need to be on top of that. So that's moved forward as well. That's all I have in terms of my town administrator's report, Mr. Chairman, for this meeting. You have any questions for me?
Any questions for the town administrator?
Hello?
Rich does.
Mr.
Rich.
Carmignani has a question.
Go ahead, Rich.
Thank
Answer's
you.
no.
Absolutely, of course. Quick update on the numbers. Best number I can give you is about $321,000 from first, second, and third that haven't been collected. I was able to go off screen. I can do a calculation that goes through and tells us first, second, and third not paid, doesn't include the fourth. So out of a $13.5 million levy, there's 3,351,000 still outstanding, of which roughly 322 is first, second, and third. So take that number for what it's worth.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that's good news because my numbers were not real time as the treasurer's are, and I was up until the end of February with my numbers out, which was $5 million behind. So I think it's not great, but it's certainly positive. It's better than being $5 million behind.
Yeah, it sounds a lot better. Excellent. Any questions for the town's treasurer? Hearing none.
Thank you.
I got it back. Okay, next up would be new business. Sorry, I skipped ahead before. The letter to Governor Baker requesting support for the Stevens Mill project. Mr. Ruda.
Mr. Chairman, so everybody is very distinctly aware of the work we're trying to get accomplished in redeveloping the historic Stevens Mill. We really had a good head of steam going before this happened. Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Joseph were helping me a lot in terms of working with the developers and with town council and with our political allies to try to get this thing moving along. And I don't want us to get derailed. So we still have to have a town meeting vote. We still have to look for special legislation and request that vote. The planning board has scheduled a hearing for a bylaw amendment within the next several weeks. But I did want us to get a letter out with support from the Board of Selectmen. And it's not a letter to do anything more than to keep the momentum going. We're asking the governor to help us facilitate legislative assistance when it gets to the point where the legislature is going to vote on our special legislation request generated at the town meeting. Everybody's on board with this. Even the lieutenant governor, when she came out, was on board with helping us out. So what I'm trying to do is amidst all of this crisis, I want to try to keep this at least at a staff level in the governor's office so that when the time comes, we're in the queue to get some support for this. This doesn't do anything in terms of undermining the town meeting vote, doesn't take away from any hearings or anything like that we're certainly going to continue to schedule and proceed forward with. All this is a letter asking the governor, Peter Durant, and Ryan Fatman to keep this on the front burner when things clear up for us. So I'm asking for the board to vote to authorize me to sign this on behalf of the board. And it's, the last page says sincerely signed on behalf and by vote of the Dudley Board of Selectmen. And I'll sign it in the absence of us being together where everybody could sign it.
So Chair will entertain a motion to grant the administrator's request to sign the letter on our behalf.
Mr. Chairman, I
moved.
move. Same move. Second.
Moved by
Sorry,
Mr.
John.
You got it, Paul.
Moved by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Mr. Marcy. Any questions to the town administrator on the issue? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Roll call vote.
Oh,
John Marcy, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye. You got it, Mr. Ruda.
Great. I'll get that out tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Joseph.
Steve,
Yep.
before we go further, I think that there ought to be a motion to accept the reports that were given to us including the town administrator's report. If you believe that that's an appropriate action, then I would like to make that motion.
Second.
That will, Jonathan, we usually just unanimous consent it, but because we're doing it remotely, we should probably roll call it then.
Yeah, I did, Mr. Chairman, I actually added that to agenda item number 2 at the bottom, just because, you know, things are happening so quickly that anything that I report or any other department had reported, you know, the chief or the board of health agent, I just wanted to be able to ratify it for the board. So at least by voting to accept the report, you know, we can at least be all on the same page with what was reported. So, yeah, yes, if you could vote on it, it'd be great.
All right, Chair will accept the motion to accept by roll call vote all the reports presented tonight, including state.
Well, Stephen, I think we should list the reports. That we should make a motion to accept the reports of the Board of Health agent, the fire chief, the chief of police, our state representative, and the town administrator's report.
Motion made by Mr. Joseph,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Marcy. Roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Good.
Next up under 4, section 2, new public state and or federal, oh, John, you touched on that already, right?
I think we're pretty well covered on it, Mr. Chairman. I put that in there just in case anything popped up between the time the agenda was out and now, and I think we're pretty up to date on that.
Okay, and we'll skip to section 4.3, Board of Health, permission to use a Corinda Wood Fund in the amount of $1,600 to pay Cheryl Ravinsky for public nursing services March 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Siganovich.
Second.
Mr. Marcy. Any questions or concerns? Roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye. Unanimous. Next up, board member comments. Mr. Joseph, I'll let you go first because we lost you at the last meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to express my sincere appreciation, gratitude, and amazement, and I mean that, at the amount and quality of work that the town administrator and all of the department heads have done during this time.
Thank you, Paul.
It's
Mr. Marcy.
definitely been a collaborative effort right along, and I appreciate that, Mr. Joseph.
We appreciate you looping the staff in and keeping everybody up to speed on everything. Mr. Marcy, anything you'd like to add?
I'll echo what Mr. Joseph just said. I just think that, you know, this got handed to us very quickly, and this town and our team responded, and we got to just make sure everybody's informed, put plans in place, and ready to execute them when need be. So just fantastic job by the team. Let's keep it up, and please, everybody, stay safe.
Mr. Siganovich.
I like to echo what Mr. Joseph said, and I also want to say to Mr. Ruda, excellent communication. I mean, there's not a point where I've been wondering what's going on before I have a chance to think about what's going on. There's an email in my mailbox. I just want to thank you for that. That's absolutely wonderful. And I want to thank everyone that's everything, the police, the fire, the EMS. I mean, those people are on the front lines. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And folks, please follow the guidelines. Don't listen to what your neighbors say unless it's good stuff, but follow the guidelines that are out there. There's enough of them from the CDC, from the town, and what have you. And yeah, everyone stay safe.
Can I follow up on that for 1 second, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Ruda.
What Mr. Siganovich said about following the guidelines, 110%. You know, that we're not doing this for nothing. And I think that internally and externally, we need to continue to follow those guidelines. And I appreciate the support of the Board of Selectmen in strongly echoing that sentiment, particularly for employees. There can be no, we can't let up at this point. We're sprinting towards the finish line, hopefully at some point, and to let up now and let our guard down is not what we want to be doing.
Absolutely. You know, I want to echo what everybody said. Mr. Reuter is definitely leading the pack down there at the town hall with all our efforts. And I also, as Tom Purcell's on, I want to thank Tom, Jonathan, myself, Tom Purcell, and town council were on the phone for about 2.5 hours the other night with the information that was coming out about what happened at the school, the speed at which the information, people were reaching out to different members of the board, different members of the town structure, and we didn't do a Zoom, but we did a 4-way conference call, and I think we ended up being on the phone for about a total of 2.5 hours, and we had a real good dialogue. Some of the stuff, that information that was being shared to us was quite disturbing. We came up with a game plan. We tried to push our plan forward. We got most of what we wanted, I believe, but those of you that read the telegram, if you didn't, Jonathan Reuter, in conjunction with myself, he put out a strong statement. He ran it by me. He ran the language by me. I think the statement speaks for itself. Not saying people weren't taking it serious by any stretch, but I think like I said, the statement speaks for itself. The effort that Tom Purcell put out the next day in working with the schools, but we have to be vigilant. Jonathan's statement covered an action that the Board of Selectmen does not want to have to do if we don't have to do it. We just hope that the cooperation and the care that the schools are going to receive will be appropriate for the level of concern and potential exposure that not only at Dudley Elementary School, but it filtered out to all the other schools on both sides of the district. And hopefully we don't have to reconvene an emergency session to take any kind of action that Mr. Reuter alluded to in his statement. And I just want to touch what Fire Chief Kochanowski and Police Chief Wayner. Again, we thank every person, every entity in the community that has stepped up, that has helped to donate with his gaps. They've donated supplies. They've donated time, energy, effort. Chief Wayner touched on it briefly in his statement at the beginning about the maintenance foreman from Shepherd Hill, Mr. Duval, coming down and helping to decontaminate the lobby. It's a cooperative effort. We all say it. It's what makes our town what it is. And I've said it to the press, and I've said it again. I echo what everybody else on the board said. We just need to go straight ahead, keep moving, check on your neighbors. If you got elderly or shut-ins, please, social distance, but reach out, make sure your neighbors are safe, make sure your family's safe, and hopefully this thing flattens out and we get back to some sense of normalcy. But again, I appreciate the effort, everybody at the town hall, all the departments, public safety are still out there front and center on the front lines, and can't say enough to the effort and the coordination we're getting by everybody. Couple hiccups, but we're working on them. Am I correct with that assessment, Mr. Reuter?
Yeah, well, there's been a few hiccups, but I think, like you said, overall, it's been incredible the amount of we went from 1985 to at least 2010 technologically wise overnight. And the credit goes to everyone, all the staff members who have sat through these boring meetings of how to use Zoom, how to get on via VPN, how to just adapt to the way we have to operate now. So I mean, it's a credit to all the staff and everybody who stepped up to assist me.
Outstanding. I would have to say, was not anything we did not expect. That the town hall pulls together on everything they can, and public safety, like I say, is front and center. And as Chief Kochanowski said, call us, and Chief Wayne has said, call us if you need us. They can talk you through a lot of things that doesn't tie up the ambulance or ties up the guys that are on duty, but that's all I have to add.
Mr. Chairman, if you work in a hospital and you're not a Patriots fan now, what are you? You see tonight's news?
Yes, yes.
Imagine that with the private sector, right?
Yeah. Well,
Unbelievable.
when you dig into the story, I guess it wasn't just the fact he used his plane, but the plane is not a transoceanic plane. They had to do modifications, I guess, that the Kraft family did out of pocket to be able to get it to Alaska and then get it to China. And on top of that, according to published reports, they also donated $2 million to the cause of buying the actual mask. I mean, that's, as we know on the local level, and Chief Kochanowski can touch on it, he has before, we know the effect that the Kraft Foundation can have on your local community. When they stepped up and helped purchase that off-road rescue vehicle, and obviously that was nowhere near 2 million, but there can't be anybody out there that kind of at least respect and be amazed at that donation that the Kraft family did. And on that note, I think I'm good with everything. We have student rep there. Would the student rep have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. So as you know, the whole situation with the school came on very quickly. I was completely baffled about having school being canceled, and we were just sitting in class trying to figure out what's going on. The staff was trying to tell us stuff, keeping us as informed as possible. Then we saw the governor come on, and school's canceled till May 4th, so we were all shocked. We're just trying to check in with all our friends and trying to make sure everyone's okay. Just a few things. MCAS is canceled per the state. So Governor Baker, I believe, and the president waived the standardized tests as well. Spring sports are on hold, obviously. And there's a district-wide enhanced learning campaign going on. We are using Zoom. I know personally for my calculus class, we're using Zoom quite a lot. There's a lot of live streams for the AP kids on YouTube for the curriculum. The AP test is completely screwed up because of this. It's completely shortened and all these other things, but a lot of people are doing a great job trying to keep these kids learning and keeping the stuff going. The teachers are doing the best they can. We have Google Classroom, Google Hangout. Teachers are sending, work and whatever to the kids and just trying to be informed. And I think they're doing the best that they can with the cards they were given. So that's about it for me.
Thanks, Al.
Of course.
Anybody else have anything to add? So at this point, I guess we're just looking for a town administrator before I let everybody go. Are we still looking at Monday night?
You doing departmental communication, or you skipping that?
Oh, I thought you guys were all set from before.
No, I forgot a few things.
Oh,
I just
okay.
wanted to bring up,
Apologize.
I said I'd bring them up, and I did forget a couple things. Reimbursement for the FEMA for the 75%. Just make sure all the departments get that in. I know I say it every time. Most departments have been submitting stuff. Maybe other departments haven't had any costs related to that, but overtime, any equipment related to COVID. I know the administrators submitted some things, Board of Health. So submit it. We went to a webinar today, Paul and I, and we're starting to input stuff and learn the system. But the more we get in, the better off we are. I'm still working with a facility on sheltering. I spoke to somebody today. I'm sure you can figure out where it is, but I'm not going to say it publicly because they asked me not to. So it'll probably be available maybe after April 8th, but it may be a week longer than that. But I'm still working on that, and that looks like a building within that facility will become available within a week or two. And I just wanted to take a minute to thank all my staff. all my full-time staff and call staff. They really stepped up to the plate over the last 2 weeks under difficult conditions. They've been doing a great job. I know they're worried about their families and stuff, but they've really done a good job. And I'm really proud of them, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Wayner, anything you wanted to add from before? Chief Wayner. Is he still with us?
I don't think
Like
he
he
is.
dropped.
We'll assume he's all set. So, anybody have anything you want to add, Jonathan, we started talking about Monday night? Are we still looking like we're on? Or are we going to wait and see?
I mean, unless there's any objection, if something crops up, yeah, we'll still be on, but I'm thinking that we cancel it now. If I need to have a meeting or something comes up, I'll certainly wrangle everybody in, but I think we're all up to date. I'm hoping that everything stays quiet for the next 4 or 5 days, but probably a little chance of that.
All right, anybody have anything else they want to add? If not,
Yeah, I
we'll-
want to thank Tommy Purcell for being where he is, which is right here in Dudley. As our health agent, I have a lot of confidence and trust in what he does, and he's made all the right decisions, and I'm just grateful he's with us.
Indeed. Well said.
Thanks, Tom.
Agreed.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
Well,
It's fun to, it's actually fun to be working in Dudley. Great staff to work for, and to work with. I really appreciate the working conditions in Dudley. Thank you.
Tom, just to echo, I know I touched on it before. If we could have looped them all in the other night, they really would have seen your dedication and your expertise that you were giving us on that phone call. Well, 2 of them, but 2 phone calls, but we certainly appreciate it from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rudy, you good?
I'm good. I'm going to send out the budget that we've already submitted to the Board of Selectmen for the FAA to take a look at. Because it was created before this, I think that to have a meeting on Monday would just kind of wouldn't be a productive use of time. So I'm going to at least get the budget into their hands, and then we'll meet when we get a better idea as to which direction we're heading.
Okay, so we will tentatively cancel out that meeting, but we'll reserve the space if something breaks over the weekend.
Works for me.
I forgot to say one thing. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Al.
Mr. Chaplin is going to meet with the senior class specifically in the next coming days to discuss prom and graduation ceremonies and stuff like that. So we'll get information as it comes, and I'm sure I'll pass it along to you guys.
Excellent.
Thanks, Al.
Of course.
At this point, in the absence of any objection, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr.
So moved.
Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Joseph and Mr. Massey consecutively.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
John Marcy, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Gary Siganovich, aye.
Before I say aye, we also want to make sure we thank the town treasurer. Rich was on tonight and, from home, and he gave a lot of information. So thank you to Rich.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Stephen
Reggie.
Sullivan,
Good
aye.
night. Night, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Ruda, for hosting.
Thank you.
Good night.